Adventure time! Come on, grab your friends. We'll go to very distant lands. We'll take the dog and then the human. The fun will never end. It's adventure time.
Right, so Adventure Time. You've probably heard about this one. It's a great show. It's in its 4th season. But it takes a little bit of watching to get into it. At least for me it did. Adventure Time is a fantasy comedy by Pemberton Ward. It was originally presented to Nickelodeon, but they turned it down. He would have offered it to Hub, most likely, if it had been 2008. So Cartoon Network took it and stuck it in the Adult Swim time slot. That means it's on late, but strangely enough, it's the least vulgar show on Adult Swim. I have actually recommended to people that they record Adventure Time for their kids. There are some episodes, like the ones with the Lich in them, that I seriously don't let the kids see because, honestly, that guy is scary looking. But those episodes are bookends for the season, so it's not very often that it comes up. Instead, what comes up is funny people, funny characters, and silly stories that kids and adults alike can get into. Nobody curses, nobody bleeds, even if the main character carries a big sword. I never used to like the show. In fact, it took me like 3 or 4 episodes to get into it. I like my stories deep, and ultimately that's what drew me in. Because Adventure Time is a comedy that has many layers, like an onion. You have the story of each episode, and then the overarching story of each season, and the history of the characters, and of the world. So let's start from the top. Adventure Time is set in the magical land of Oo, which is really Earth after an apocalyptic event, referred to as the Great Mushroom War. Not the toadstool mushrooms, mushroom clouds. All clouds have a silver lining, except for the mushroom-shaped ones. They have a lining of iridium and strontium-90. According to Ward, the show takes place after the bombs have fallen and magic has come back into the world. Now, here's what gets really cool. Like any form of artwork, Adventure Time has its outside influences, and if I just pinpoint a few, besides the obvious Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering references. One of the first ones is Ralph Bakshi's 1977 animated movie Wizards, which starts off like this.
The world blew up in 1,000 atomic fireballs. The first blast was set off by 5 terrorists. It took 2 million years for some of the radioactive clouds to allow some sun in. By then, only a handful of humans survived. The rest of humanity had changed into hideous mutants. These mutant species floundered in the bad areas, radioactive lands that never allowed them to become human again, and made each birth a new disaster. Then, in the good lands they came back, arising from their long sleep, fairies, elves, dwarves, the true ancestors of man.
The show revolves around Finn, the possibly last human in existence, and Jake the dog, Finn's brother and best friend who can shapeshift and stretch his body. He's like Mr. Fantastic if Mr. Fantastic was a dog. Another influence, I think, is from the Harlan Ellison story turned movie called A Boy and His Dog, which is about a boy and his talking dog in a post-apocalyptic world. It even has the boy venturing into an underground city, like we see in the Adventure Time episode Utopia.
I detect no living female person within my range, sir. I have sniffed and I have cast and I have a negative reading. However, I'd be delighted to tell you a suggestive story if you think that would help.
Pass, fuzzy butt.
There are other characters too, and as you watch the show you get to know them. But the 2 I want to talk about are the 2 who are igniting the internet right now. The Ice King is a recurring character who is probably intended to be a more dastardly villain, but he kinda sucks at that.
Oops, I've got the dropsies.
In fact, if he ever does anything truly evil, it's by accident. The real bad guy is the Lich, and for this universe, in the fantasy universe, Lich is an undead wizard. He's sort of your archetypical fantasy bad guy.
You're a joke to me.
What I like about Adventure Time is that it's open to interpretation. Each season they give us a little bit more about the history of the world or about the history of characters, but that always leaves us asking more questions. Adventure Time is a great show, and if you're not watching it, you really need to get on that. This is the Griffin88, and this has been Cartoon Catch-Up.